So, Kakadosh, Shavua Tov, Masechet Yoma Membet Amud Aleph, 42a1. We are 3 lines down where it says Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, we said that the Amar Rabbi Yochanan says the machloket, pligi ba, the machloket between Shmom and Chalafta and Rabbanan is to do with the Lashon HaZeorit of Paraduma. Chad Amar, one of them says that you need a mishkal of 10 zuz, we need 10 zuz. And one of them says it's enough with a mishkal of a shekel, of 1 shekel. Okay, so it says over here, right, that the siman to remember is echad amar be ve'echad amar mit, which means one of them says a lot, one of them says a little bit, because they went to 2 extremes. One of them says 10 zuz, and the other one just says it's one shekel, which is like 2 extremes. You're going from 10 zuz to 1 shekel. It's very, very from 2 extremes. There's nothing in the middle, basically. Okay, so he comes and he says, right, as follows. He comes and he says, Amaleh Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti Ravina. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti to Ravina. This is now going to be another nusach, another version of the machloket. Lo bepara pligi. Really, be'emet, there's no machloket in the paraduma. Ela besira mishtaleach pligi. When is a machloket? To do the sira mishtaleach, which means one more time. There were 2 lashon zeorits. There were 2 red strings. Okay, 1 red string with the paraduma, 1 red string with the sira mishtaleach, the seed which he threw off the cliff on Kippur. Okay, so now we're saying, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti to Ravina, the paraduma, there's no machloket there. So where's the machloket? Only in the, also, it's written in the Torah. You have to bring the, just like over here, the same thing. You need lashon shel zeorit. That's what you used in the paraduma, to actually have the kovid in order to come and actually use it. That's what you used to use in the purification process. Okay? So he says in the Seira Mishtaleach, there was a machloket. What was the machloket? It says over here, Vahu Yoma Nachnam Shed Ravya Bar Kise, right? Ravya Bar Kise passed away. Ve'anchu bas siman, and they made a siman, which means the fact that he passed away, right? And that was the day that they argued on this. So that's how they were going to remember. Ravya Bar Kise mechaper keseira mishaleach, because the death of a tzaddik, remember, the death of a tzaddik atones, right? Just like the seira mishaleach. So that's why he says over here, Ravya Bar Kise mechaper keseira mishaleach, just like the seira mishaleach is going to be mechaper, which means when they threw down this he-goat from the cliff, it was an atonement for us. All our avirot went down the cliff, as if to say, they threw it off the cliff, right? And that's why it used to come and used to get destroyed halfway down and everything, right? So too, Ravya Bar Kise, when he passed away, it was like a kapara for us. Okay? Nobody says anything about the Indom. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, says Rabbi Yitzchak, Shte shchitot shamati. I heard that there were 2 different shchitot over here. This is talking about the dinim of paraduma and avodat Yom Kippurim. Achat shel para ve'achat shel paro. One of them of the paraduma and one of them of the para, the Kohen Gadol on Kippur. Achak shera bazar. One of them is going to be kosher if you did it with a stranger. Ve'achak psula bazar. One of them is going to be psul, right, bazar, with a stranger. Ve'lo yadana haymina, but I don't know which one. Now remember one thing. Remember, is a zar, a stranger, allowed to do shechita?
Is a Jew or not?
A stranger, a Jew, obviously.
A Jew,
right?
A Jew's allowed.
A Jew's allowed to do shechita. The only thing which is prohibited is from the kabbalat adam, the accepting of the blood, and onwards. That has to be done by a kohen. But other than that, everything else can be done by a regular Jew. But here it says mefurash that one of them, here there's a special din, paraduma, and you have a special din of the para of the Kohen Gadol on Kippur. So here he says one of them is kosher with a stranger, which means a non-kohen, and one of them is prohibited with a stranger, but I don't know which one's which. So Itmar, so who stated, Shchitat para uparo, Rav Shmuel, right? It's a machloket, Rav Shmuel. One of them says para is psula bezar, uve paro kshera. V'chad amar paro psula bezar, uve para kshera. So the machloket between them is, right? The machloket between Rav and Shmuel is what actually happens. We have 2 halachot, para duma and para of the Kohen Gadol. Okay, one of them is a para. One of them is a par. One's a bull and one's a cow, yeah? But, one's a female and a male, right? But, it says over here, one of them is kosher with the stranger doing the shechita, and one of them is not kosher, but we don't know which one. It's actually machloket, Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel, one of them says, paraduma is pasul, disqualified with a zar, and paro is kosher. Another one says the exact opposite, so it's a machloket. Okay? No, nothing to do with it. No, just in general. A general rule. Whenever we needed. Whenever we needed to become tahor, they used to use paraduma. Nothing to do with kippur. Nothing to do with kippur.
I think his question is, when did we really do the shechita, the paraduma?
No, that was
only
anytime.
done a few times.
Anytime that we had. Anytime that we needed and we had. Right? Remember, whenever we had a paraduma, we used to use it. The only thing is, right, it didn't have to be on kippur. The only thing is, here we're talking about that there are two different paras which are very special, and one of them we knew was going to be kosher with a zad, and one is not going to be kosher with a zad. Okay? So tistayem, we want to bring a proof that Ravuna da Amar, that Ravuna that he's saying paras psula, the para aduma is going to be pasul with a zad. He says his zamar bizira b'ser bizira, shchitat para zar pesula, shchitat para aduma with a zad is going to be psula. The Amar Ravala, and Rav comes and he says elazar v'chuka shaninu ba. He says it's written in the Torah Elazar because he was a sgan kohen gadol by the para aduma. Right, he was like the vice kohen gadol to do the paraduma. It's written you have to give it to Elazar Kohen and he's going to take it outside. So it comes to teach you that the shchita is done with the sgan, with the vice kohen gadol, not with the kohen gadol in itself. And it's written by Parashat Paraduma that it's a chukah, it's a chok, it's a statute. Right, we don't understand right the reasoning behind the paraduma. So therefore, anytime that it's written, it's a chukah. Right, we come to teach you that everything is me'akev. So according to this, we actually come to learn that the shchitat of the paraduma, which is going to be done with a stranger, right, is going to be pasul.
That could even mean an ordinary tone.
Yes.
So only Ali Desgan?
Only Ali Desgan or the Kohen Gadol himself. Okay? That is the shita of what we just said, Rav Huna and Rabbi Zera. Okay? Now the Gemara says, right, 1 second. V'Rav, according to Rav, Maishna para dichtiv elazar v'chuka, paronami hu aktiv aron v'chuka. 1 second. Why did you Davka specifically go with the paraduma? His bull on Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol's bull on Kippur has the exact same words written, but it's not written Elazar, it's written Aharon, right? So it's written Chuka, and it's also written Aharon, right? Which means, according to your logic, the fact that it's written Elazar and Chuka, you wanted to say that it is going to be disqualified if it's going to be what? If it's going to be with a stranger. Here you also have Aharon and Chuka. That means just like over there you had Elazar and Chuka, so to here you have Aaron and Chuka. So you should apply the same rules. So why is there a machloket that according to everybody it's one yes and one no, but we just didn't know which one? Here, if you're already applying that rule, it should be both yes. Okay? Everyone understood the question? Answer. So the Gemara answers, Shchita lav avodahi. Says the Gemara, no, but Shchita is not considered an avodah. So therefore, the word chukah, which is written by the avodah in Yom Kippurim, is not written to do with the shchita because the chukah is only to do with the avodah, not to do with the shchita. Shchita is not an avodah. That's why by the paraduma, by the par of the Kohen Gadol, there's no problem whatsoever. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me the shchita is not an avodah, so to by the para is the same thing. Iachi paranami. So answers the Gemara, shane para, it's different. The para, te kochebe de kabaiti, because it's kochebe de kabaiti, which means the kedusha. Right, paraduma is different than the part of the Kohen Gadol because the kiddusha is like the kiddusha of different things which are sanctified for their money. That you would sell it and then you would get money for the bedek habayit. It doesn't have kiddushat mizbeach. Therefore, right, the lorak shchitata is not considered avodah. Everything is not considered avodah, meaning nothing is considered avodah. So therefore, you cannot tell me that the chukah is only to do with the avodah. Meaning like this. One more time. Chukah. We wanted to answer that chukah comes to include something which is not an avodah. Shchita is not an avodah. So therefore, by the par of the Kohen Gadol, since it's not an avodah, anybody could do it. By the paraduma, right, it's also written chukah. But if you're going to tell me, so then it should be kosher with a shchita, with a zar, with a stranger. So the Gemara answers no. By the paraduma, nothing's an avodah. Because you don't bring it to the mizbeach. The paraduma is not brought to the altar. Since it's not brought to the mizbeach, it's not a korban. What? Outside. Outside.
Where is it burned, offered?
By Haraz Zitim.
It's all done outside.
They made a bridge. They made a bridge going outside of the Bet HaMikdash that used to go outside, and that's where they used to burn it. Right? They used to be able to see it and everything from the Paraduma. Right? We learned that at the beginning of Yoma. Right? But that was not again, but it's not brought on the Mizbeach. So since it's not an avodah at all. Wow. So since it's not an avodah at all, chukah cannot come to exclude the avodah, because the entire thing's not an avodah. By the part of the Kohen Gadol, the word chukah, I want to come to exclude that only something of avodah. Shchita is not an avodah, so it's going to be mutar bezar with a stranger. But by here, it's not like that. So he comes and he says, "Velav." Yes. No. The azah. Yeah, they will bring in one. Yeah. So he says, "Velav kol dechenu." So he says, 1 second, and it's not a kal v'chomer. Why not? If you're going to tell me now that the chukah, that by the paraduma was not an avodah at all, so then it should be a kal v'chomer. What should be the kal v'chomer? If by the part of the kohen gadol, which is kodshei mizbeach, and it's not said the chukah by the shchita, so kal v'chomer by the para, which is not kodshei, which is only kodshei by the kabayit, and it's not kodshei mizbeach. So therefore, the chukah was not to do with the shchita. So therefore, I should do a kal v'chomer. If you're going to tell me, right, you understood? Meaning, I'm making a kal v'chomer that it should be kosher with the shchita, with the zah. What's more strict, the part of the kohen gadol or paraduma? The part of the kohen gadol. It's an avodah. It's done in the bet hamikdash. It's done on the mizbeach. So that could be done with a shchita, right? By a zar. Kal v'chomer, the paraduma, which is not an avodah at all, could be done with a shchita by zar. Okay? So he says, so he says like this, yeah? It says, right, as follows. So now it says, Velav kol decherhu. So it says, Amar Rav Sheshat, right, Bered Ravidi. He says Rav Sheshat, the son of Ravidi. Neither dahava amarot negaim. We're talking about like marot negaim. Telav avodah hi ubaya keuna. What about marot negaim? Who's the only ones that can see a nega, sarat? It has to be a kohen. The kohanim are the only ones that see sarat. Now is that a service? It's not a service. Is anyone in the Bet HaMikdash? Is anyone? There's no sacrifices. There's no nothing. And still, who's the only one that could do it? Kohen.
It's written.
It's written in the Torah. What? Exactly. So therefore, but that's after a person already has tzara. Then they bring sacrifices. But who looks at the tzara? Who looks? Only the Kohen. Now why? Who's the examiner? Why the Kohen? It's not an avodah. It's nothing. You understand? It's nothing.
It could be a technician.
Yeah, it could be a doctor. Yeah. Well, why does that have to be? Of course. Which one? No, but at the end of the day, no. But we're just saying though that at the end of the day, why does that have to be dafka kohen? So fine, not a doctor. Give it to a rabbi, a regular rabbi, Rabbi Israel. Why does that have to be dafka kohen? Now there, it's not a service. It's not an avodah. So he says, right? The love avodah ubaya kiuna. So says the Gemara. Now, according to Shmuel, he says the shchita of the paro of the kohen gadol is pasul bezar. Ma'ishna paro. Why is it written? Because it's written Aaron v'chuka. Para is also written, right? Elazar v'chuka. So answers the Gemara. Shane hatam. The Gemara is going to answer. By para duma, it's written v'shachat otah lefanav. Sheyeh zar shochet v'elazar roeh. That even it's mashma over there. That no, when it says v'shachat otah lefanav means in front of him. So it's mashma that somebody else could do the shechita, and Elazar just has to be watching. Meaning not that Elazar is the one doing the shechita, Elazar is watching the shechita. That means as long as he's omed al gabav, right, which is supervising, he's like standing there watching, so that's going to be okay. So here you have a pasuk mefurash that's mashma that somebody else could do the shechita by the paraduma. V'Rav, and according to Rav, he says no. Shelo yasiach tato mimena. When it says over here v'shachat ota lefanav just means that you're not allowed to have a sechadat. Sechadat means you yourself, you the vice kohen, right? You have to do it, but we don't want you to forget about it. Meaning, we want you the entire time to have your mind on it, to pay attention to what's going on. So that's a pshat of sechadat. So nafka is ul Shmuel, and according to Shmuel, how do we know you're not allowed to have a sechadat? Shelo yasi tato minale. Says nafka. He learns it from the pasuk v'saraf et hapara le'enav. What does that mean? V'saraf et hapara le'enav. Right? It's mashma. You're not going to be mesiach dat only during the time of the srifa. The same halacha would apply during the time of the shechita. So when it says v'saraf et hapara le'enav, it means that you're going to burn the para aduma in front of it. The Rav, and according to Rav, chabi shchita v'chabi srifa. One of them is the shchita, and one of them is the srifa, which means that you're not allowed to have a sechadat during the shchita, and you're not allowed to have a sechadat during the srifa. Utzricha, and you need both. Which means here now we're giving you a chidush, right? Imagine right now we know we're not allowed to have a sechadat during tefillin, right? Are you allowed to have sechadat during tefillin shalosh, or anytime that you have the tefillin on?
No, you have to have a kedusha. You have to have
on both. But there's no difference between here. All of a sudden, the Torah is telling us, kilu, according to Rav, that you're not allowed to have a sechadat not during the shechita, neither during the srefa. Now we have to understand, why do you need both? Meaning not during the slaughtering, not during the burning of the paraduma. But why do you need both? So the Gemara says you need both. Why do you need both? But if it's going to be that you need the shchita, because it's the beginning of avodah. Aval srefa, but to do with srefa, imalo, I would say no. So tzricha, that's why you need it. And if it's going to be with a srefa, because now, right, this is the time when you need the para, right, which is basically the tachlit of the para, is in order to purify it. Aval shchita, but to do a shchita, I would say no. Tzricha, that's why you need both. Okay? Fine.
So the avodah starts with the burning?
No, the avodah is already, first you have to slaughter it, then you burn it. But, right, first you do the shchita, and then you burn it. But you're not going to do shchita after you burn it. After you burn it, there's no shchita anymore. You completely consumed it. But here, what we're trying to say, though, is that we would have thought to say only by the tchilat avodah. But the srefa, we would have said, big deal. You don't need to have a sechadat. Like, you could have a sechadat, there's no problem. But then the Torah says, but if it would have only brought down the srefa, because right now it's becoming the para, right? But the shchita, maybe you don't have it, you have no problem anyway. So that's why you need it by both. That's why it needs to be written by both. You're not allowed to have a sechadat. Remember, a sechadat means I'm not allowed to take my mind off it. The entire time my mind is on it, that I know exactly what I'm doing. So says the Gemara, what's it coming to exclude? If you're going to tell me that it's coming to exclude a sifat afra, that I'm gathering together the ashes. Remember, what do you use with the paraduma? You use the ashes. The ashes of the paraduma is what you come, you take it, you mix it with water, and then you sprinkle, right? That's what you're supposed to do. So if you're going to tell me it's the ashes, right? Uminui mayim lekidush, or that you're filling up the water in order to put the ashes inside of it, right? So membeta mubet, lemishmeret lemenidah ktiv. It's, you can't say that. Why? It's already written lemishmeret lemenidah, which comes to teach you that you need shmidah, which means you're not allowed to have hesech hadat until that you're going to sprinkle the mei nidah on the tameh. It's called the mei nidah waters. So this mei nidah waters are sprinkling on top of the human being that was tameh, and now he's going to become tahor. So says the Gemara, but rather it's coming to exclude that when you're going to mix, right, into the srefat para, you're going to put the cedar wood and the hyssop tree and the crimson wool. When you're putting all these things inside to burn as well, this you don't need concentration. Meaning you could have a sechadat in there. Why? What?
Put in the water on the...
No, it says here inside the srefat para, in the burning process. Right there, there's no problem of a sechadat. Why? Because it's not the actual body of the paraduma. So since it's not the paraduma and it's something external, there I'm allowed to have a sechadat and there's no problem. That's what it's coming to exclude. Okay? Itmar, it was stated. Shchitat para bezar, when you're talking about the shchita of a paraduma in a zar. Okay, we're on 42b. Okay? It says, Rabbi Yami Omer, Rabbi Yami says, Keshera, it's going to be kosher. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha Amar, Rav Yitzchak Nafcha says psula, it's going to be pasul. Ula Amar, Ula says kshera, and Vamnila, and some people say it's psula. So basically, we have again on the machloket the same thing with paraduma. Is it kosher or not kosher to do with a shchita with a zar? So Mati Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba comes Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba and he's going to ask a question on Shemuel. Is the Rav as a proof to Rav? Enli ela hazaat meimea shen kishenim bigisha kevaish. We only know from the pasuk that the sprinkling of the water is not going to be kosher with a woman to do with a man, which means that the haza'at through a woman is pasul. Ve'en kesherin ela bayom, and it's only going to be kosher during the day. Minayin lerabot shchitata ve'kabalat hama v'zedama usrefata. How do we know that it's only good that how do we know to include the shchita, the kabbalat adam, the slaughtering, the receiving of the blood, hazat hama, the sprinkling of the blood, usrefata, the burning of it, hashachat etzerev zezosh nitulat? How do we know all those things also is only going to be kosher during the day? Meaning the beginning part was to do with a woman. Meaning a woman that does haza'ah is pasul. It has to be a man that's sprinkling, not a woman. Next halakha has to do with during the day. So we said it has to be done during the day, not during the night. Now, how do we know that it's only to include shchita, the receiving of the blood, the sprinkling of the blood, the burning of it, throwing the etzeres uzosh nitolat, tamluma zochukat haTorah, which means that it all has the same halakha. Yes. The Yachol Shani Marbet Asifat Efra Umilui Mayim Kiddush, I would have thought to say that maybe also the gathering of the ashes and the filling up of the water had to be done during the day only. Tamulumar Zot. What does it mean Zot? Zot comes to exclude that it can be even done during the nighttime, there's no problem. So so why am I including some and I'm getting rid of some? Meaning some of them I'm including and some of them I'm excluding. Why am I doing that? Yeah? Which means why am I excluding the gathering of the efed, the gathering of the ashes, and I'm excluding the filling up of the water? That's kosher at the nighttime, and all the rest was pasul during the nighttime. So says the Gemara, once I already included and I also excluded, because HaTorah comes to include. Zot is this, comes to exclude. So Amarta, I'm going to say, kulan mazat memea. I'm going to learn everything to do with the sprinkling. Mazat memea, just like when I'm going to sprinkle, and it's not going to be kosher by a woman, just like a man. It's only going to be during the day that it's going to be kosher. So too, I'm going to bring the shchita, kabbalat dama, vazat dama, v'sefata, v'shachar, shehoil ben kshen b'isha, that means it's also going to be pasul through a woman. So it's going to be done by during the day. Which means like this. What was the introduction? The introduction is that you're not allowed to do the haza'ah through a woman. It can only be done through a man. Then we spoke about everything which is done during the day. Everything has to be done during the day. Then we came and we said the fact that it's written zot comes to exclude certain things don't need to be during the day. What is that? Gathering of the ashes or filling up the water. Now, 1 second. Why did I include those ones and exclude these ones? So the Gemara says very simple. Whatever is kosher with a woman should be kosher also during the night. And whatever is disqualified for a woman is disqualified for the night. So therefore, women were allowed to do the gathering of the ashes. And women were allowed to do, right, the milui mayim v'kiddush. So because of that, it's going to be kosher, right, during the nighttime as well. But a woman cannot do the shchita. She cannot do kabbalat dama. She cannot do azat dama. She can't do all these things. Since she can't do all these things, so therefore, that's why it wasn't going to be kosher during the nighttime either. So that's why we actually specifically chose these two things. So says the Gemara, what's the question then on Shmuel from the Braita? Ilema, if you're going to tell me now, that if it's going to be pasul for a woman, it's going to be pasul from a zar. Hazad mematochiach. What about the sprinkling of the water? That it's going to be pasul for a woman, but it's going to be kosher with a zar, which means that even the shchita. What? So he comes in, and he says, Hazat memea tochiach. So therefore, we want to learn one from another, which means that just like the hazat memea, the sprinkling of the water by a woman is going to be pasul, and it's going to be kosher by a zar, which means so too the shchita should be pasul from a woman, but it's kosher in a zar. Meaning, if you're already learning it from a woman, you cannot compare it. Why? Because what about the sprinkling? The sprinkling cannot be done by a woman, but it can be done by a man, right? But what about the shchita then? So okay, so the shchita cannot be done by a woman, but it can be done by a man. So don't bring me a proof, right, from the shchita to do with a woman, because it's two different halachot. So Amar Abaye comes and he says, Hainu tiyufta. No, you know what the tiyufta is. Isha, what's the reason why a woman cannot do it? My tama, because it says Elazar velo Isha. So too zar nami Elazar velo zar. Why can't a woman do the shchita? Because it says Elazar. So Elazar, a Kohen, the vice Kohen, right, and not a woman. So if I'm already using that mindset, I'm going to do the same thing, that it's Elazar a Kohen and not a stranger. Meaning it's not because stam I decided a woman not, it's because I had a word. The word in the Torah was a viceroy, Elazar a Kohen, he has to do it. So if I'm already learning it from Elazar a Kohen, that comes to exclude everybody, right? Not only just a woman, it comes to exclude a stranger as well. So Amar Ula comes and he says, Kola parasha kula, the entire parasha of Paraduma, mashma motzi miyad mashma, umashma mimela. Right? What does that mean? Some of the dinim, they have its mashmaut, it has an implication, right? That it's ki'ilu from one pasuk to do with one avodah, and then the next pasuk is coming to teach you, right, only from the first pasuk. But it's not going to be noheg ben avodah, which is written in the second pasuk. Umashma mimela, and then there's some psukim, which is mashma certain din, and it's mashma also that it's mimela, which means that there's nothing to do with the next pasuk, which is coming to exclude or not. Right? Why? Now let's explain, because it sounds like an enigma until now. Yeah? So it says like this. Untatem otah el Elazar Kohen. Otah, you have to give it. The para, so here we're talking about the para which is done in the desert. It had to be done in Elazar. Velo ledorot leLazar. But it doesn't have to be for future generations for the Elazar, which means that it was only that one in the desert that had to be done by the Sgan Kohen, by the vice Kohen. Right? But later on, any Kohen could do it. Yeah, it doesn't have to be only Elazar. So Yikadam, either those that say Ledorot bekohen gadol. V'ikadamli ledorot bekohen idiot. So now 1 second. In the same pasuk, I could deduce both ways. Since it said untatem ota Elazar Kohen, right? That only in the desert it had to be done with the Elazar Kohen. What about later on? So I could learn it two ways. I could learn it later on. It cannot be done by Elazar Kohen. It has to be done by the Kohen Gadol, which means that I went up a level, or I could go down a level. Sgan Kohen, exactly. There was a Sgan, but when it says only then I needed Elazar Kohen, mashma that later on for generations it had to be done by the Kohen Gadol, or I could go downwards, right? Only then you needed the Sgan Kohen Gadol. Later on in generations, any Kohen is okay. Because again, it was a special heter. Basically, was this a leniency or was it a stringency? The Torah says you need Elazar Kohen. Elazar Kohen was a skan. No, but one second. No, because maybe it's a leniency or maybe it's a stringency. Is that a leniency or a stringency? If I come and I'm going to say Mordechai has to be shliach tzibur, is that a stringency or a leniency? If I say it's a stringency, so maybe tomorrow I could be shliach tzibur because I'm less, right? Or I'm going to say stringency. If Mordechai could be today, but tomorrow maybe, I don't know, not to put you down, I don't know, whoever it is, Moshe Rabbeinu has to do it. You understand? Meaning you have to go higher. You understand? That's the question. The question is when it says Elazar Kohen, am I going up or am I going down? Is it a stringency or a leniency? מה? It's good according to the Man Damar that says Ledorot bekohen idiot chapid, right? That to do with the kohen idiot, it's going to be better. So he says Ela leman damar ledorot bekohen gadol minale. Says 1 second. I understand. It's understood basically that the dorot abaim it's going to be kosher, right, with these avodot even in a kohen idiot. So then we know why. Because afterwards, the Torah did not say that we dafka needed a skan kohen gadol or the kohen gadol, any kohen. But according to the Mandamar that you're going up, how do we know that? Meaning, I understand if it was a stringency in the desert. Why? Because then it didn't tell us what we needed. So if it didn't tell us what we needed, any kohen is good. But if you're going to tell me that only no, we needed a kohen. We know because the majority is an avodah, or not even if it's not considered an avodah, but it had to do with whether it's the receiving of the blood, all the rest. That we know. If it's an avodah, all those things. No, but we said. Well, the shkita, yes, but everything else there, everything to do with the paraduma. Okay, so he comes and he says, but if you're going to tell me now that we need a kohen gadol, how do you know that? So the Gemara says, Gamar chukah miyom kippurim. We want to learn a gzera shava. Remember, a gzera shava means that when you have two words, right, which are used in the same terminology, so therefore we're going to apply them, even though they have nothing to do with each other. So there was one word chukah brought down by Kippur, and one word chukah, which was written by paraduma. I compare both. Just like over there, it had to be done dafka with the kohen gadol. So to here, it has to be dafka done with the kohen gadol. Fine. So it continues. Says the Gemara, when it says ve'otziota, you can only take out one paraduma. You cannot take out another one with it. As we learned in the Mishnah, meaning what happens many times, animals follow each other. You understand? One of the strengths of a human being is that he's not an animal. Meaning sometimes you ask, whether it's even teenagers or boys, or you ask kids, why are you doing that? No, because my friends are doing it. So what, are you an animal? Animals, they go together. Meaning if one animal sees another animal going, it'll go with it. But a human being, you don't have to be a follower, you have to use your brain. You understand? What are you doing? You understand? Huh?
Like Instagram.
Exactly, follower. There's no followers. You have to be a brain. You have to use your brain. So what does that mean? What happens right now if the para did not want to go? It didn't want to walk out. Can you take another animal with it in order that it should see the other animal going, so then it's going to follow it? Are you allowed to do that? Says the Gemara, no. It's a Mishnah. The Mishnah in para says no. Why? You can't take out a para shchora with it, because if not, they're going to say that they slaughtered the black one. They can't take out another para duma. But then it's like that you're doing two for one. There's no 2 for 1s. Yeah, you can't do 2 para dumas in one shot. Yeah? So Rabbi says, 1 second. This is not the reason why you don't take out another para. But it says, ota means levada. Levada means by itself. Means you can't take another one with it. Okay? But it's very interesting. That means basically we had a havamina that we would take out another animal in order that it should be able to go with it. We're saying no, that you don't do that. So says the Gemara, Tanakama, it's also written ota. So he says, who's the Tanakama? Rabbi Shimon. that he's going to make a drasha in the reasoning of the Torah. So when it says the reasoning of the Torah, right, that he says the time of the pasuk, so therefore that's why it says this. It's nothing to do with ve'otziota, meaning you cannot say that the word ve'otziota comes teach you ota levada, meaning by itself. No, ve'otziota, you just have to take it out. I'm not going to start making deducing or deductions from that extra word. It's not even extra, right? So my benal, what's the difference between them? Now the difference between them is the apik chamor bada. Can I take out a chamor with it? Right, which means can I take a chamor with a para? Because according to the Tanakama, it's going to be permitted because nobody's going to say that maybe I went and I used the chamor. Everyone knows that you can't use a chamor for anything. Right? It's a chamor, but according to Rabbi, it's going to be a sur because once the Torah says levada, levada means by itself. Nobody else could go with it. That means basically the entire question is, right, if I'm going to make a decree that maybe they're going to start saying, maybe they did 2 for 1, maybe they did another animal, maybe they did this, maybe that, so that's going to be a sur. But by itself, I didn't need it. But if you're going to learn, that means according to that, if I'm going to take out a chamor, there should be no problem. Why? Nobody's going to say that I went and I did slaughtering on the chamor or I used the chamor. Chamor, everyone knows you can't use for anything. Yeah? So because of that, it will be permitted. However, though, if you're going to learn, ota is levada, so even a chamor you're not allowed to take out. Why? Because it's it. I'm not allowed to take it out. Okay? So that's going to be the machloka between them. But at least we're learning the entire concept of how do we do the paraduma. As that Hashem will continue tomorrow.